actually wanted to talk about how minorities and immigrants experience money differently. I guess it would depend on which part of the world you're coming from, and I mean, myself, I'm firstborn Canadian from an immigrant family, originally from the Philippines. And I realized in growing up, besides the fact that things change over time, so many of us who are born from immigrant couples, immigrant families who are born here in Canada are still taught very, I want to say, archaic and maybe irrelevant ways about how to handle money. And I have a few examples here. So, for instance, if you come from a family where your family or your parents, your ancestors were coming from a developing country, you might have an ingrained belief that money is scarce because that's kind of what they grew up to believe is money was scarce. And even if you were considered, well off in that developing country, coming to Canada where things are a little bit different, you still come up with this idea that money is scarce. And you know what? That might even be a generational thing, let alone, a different country thing. And so growing up thinking that money was scarce, you start to believe that you need to, when you do have the money, you want to buy the things you want to buy. And I think with the introduction of credit cards to the economy, especially with it becoming so popular in the 80s, where a lot of at least immigrant families were coming into at least the city of Edmonton and here in Canada, I can say for certain that there were certain things that there were mistakes, I suppose, that there were mistakes that, to keep up with your neighbors and the perspective that, or the perception that you are doing well, a lot of perhaps immigrant families went into the mindset to go into debt to get certain things to look like they were successful, like a big house or a nice car, buying things for their kids that would make sure that their kids fit in, but not necessarily having income to match what they were buying, right? And so I think in a lot of ways, our belongings are an identifier. They help us identify with who we want to be, which is successful, rich, and I think in a lot of ways because we didn't have a lot of the higher up positions when, they first started immigrated to Canada. Again, things have changed since then, but, we basically went beyond our means. And so they taught the kids, and myself being Generation X, they taught us kids, and I'm not going to say everybody was taught this way, but I would say that a lot of people, in my generation are probably in the situation we are in because of how we were taught to just, when we have the money, go buy it because we're going to look and feel successful. Okay. Another way that immigrant families or minorities might experience money differently is they want to make a lot of money. And I'm not saying that not other, majorities or, non-immigrants don't want to make a lot of money, but, a lot of time they're sending money to their families back home in hopes that they can bring them back here. And they go into this cycle of making lots of money, and of course you can't necessarily go into a really great job right at the beginning unless you have the education. So you go into a job and maybe you have multiple jobs. You might even be going to school so that you can qualify to be a nurse here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, because your nursing does not apply, the one that you took in your country. So you work, you study, you make money, and on top of that, you have a lot of friends that you've developed where they're buying nice cars, they're even buying nice condos, they're doing cool things that you also feel the need to keep up with them. So you discover this world again of credit, and you start to believe that, you have to do all this. And you think about it, it's so disheartening because you come to Canada thinking that things will be easier and a lot better, and the opportunity is there. And although the opportunity is there, you're creating a lot of opportunity for that, the first opportunity to kind of fail, right? Which is to build wealth, essentially. And so a lot of immigrants and minorities who come to Canada sooner than, later, into their career, they start to realize that it's a lot of work to kind of get established. And so, again, realizing that it's not as easy, but trying to look like it's easy to make money here so that you can keep up with, the people back home as well, and making sure they know that you're successful. And it all comes down to money, right? Because money helps buy the things we want so that we can show that we're successful. And the third thing that I feel like I need to say is there's a lot of people, kind of stemming on the fact that a lot of minorities, immigrants who come to Canada, they want to make a lot of money. So they'll typically want to make something easy to make money because they already have a full-time job doing what they do. They might want other side, I guess, hustles, as you will. They talk to other people of the same culture, and they get into these money-making opportunities. And I'm not going to call them scams because I think a lot of them are legitimate, but it's work, right? It's work. And somehow the message gets really convoluted because, one person sees the benefit from somebody else who's made a lot of money, but didn't realize that that person who made a lot of money did it for 10 years. They did it for 10 years, right? And they've been doing it for a lot longer. So they see this possibility of making millions of dollars, let's say, and they don't realize that there was 10 years of work that went behind that. But they made it sound like it didn't take very long at all. And so they'll talk to other people of their culture because typically, they feel a lot more comfortable talking to people of their culture. And these people who see the dream of, being a millionaire will share these stories that were actually not theirs. They're somebody else's who talked to them about it. And I find that a lot of the message gets really convoluted so that, for instance, people who are trying to help them go into an employment or job or a money-making opportunity, if they failed at that first opportunity, they think every opportunity after that is going to be a failure, right? Because they put so much time and money into it. And they think that because a year's gone by and I haven't made millions of dollars, it doesn't work, which is the message they were given. They don't believe anything, right? But it started with because they believe somebody from their own culture. And not that that's bad. That's not the whole point. But, the trust is there, right? So a lot of immigrants and minorities believe people of their same culture, not realizing that their information might also not be accurate. Okay. And I think that goes with anything. You believe people that, very much like you because you trust them, right? But specific to minorities and immigrants, they become, I want to say the victim, but that's pretty harsh. But yeah, the victim of opportunities that might not actually be for them, but are being sold to them because somebody of their own culture said it's possible for us. So I want you to be mindful if you're an advisor and you're talking to somebody who's not from Canada specifically, or even the US, that you're dealing with not just, you're obviously dealing with an individual who has their own family, money, history, story, right? But because of where they're from, you also have to kind of delve a little bit deeper into, the culture and kind of how money is portrayed in that culture is a really important thing too. Now, obviously you don't want to go deep research and assume that everybody's the same, but if you're aware that there are differences among cultures, then you could be better equipped to help the person in front of you. And I think at the end of the day, it's just really giving it's about giving cold, hard facts about how money works in Canada and how everybody can benefit from the real ways to make money, save money, and eliminate debt. Anyways, I got you all. I hope you found that helpful. Like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Have an awesome day.